Bud break is when the plant is ready to grow. It's the first stage in the growing season for the vineyard. It acts upon the soil temperature and how much heat accumulation happens during the year. So some varietals are different. Some varietals burst later. So if it's like a deep red or a Cabernet Sauvignon, that varietal will burst later than, let's say, a Chardonnay, which is harvested first, and Cabernet is probably our last harvested varietal. So bud break starts when the soil gets warm enough, usually around the middle of April. That time, the sun starts beating down on the soil, starts to warm up the vines, and so all that sap inside the vines, inside the roots starts, getting loose, getting warm, pushes up through the plant, through capillary action, and starts growing. So how we know bud break has initiated or starts is that you see it. It's very visual. You look at the vine, there's a little nub there, that's the bud. Once you start seeing a green leaf come out of the bud, it's bud break, it's time. Well, bud break's really important because you know the health of the plant. If a bud bursts and you see that shoot in particular, or a bunch of shoots on that vine have poor growth, then you know that vine might be unhealthy. On the flip side, if you see the bud breaking or the bud bursting and you see a really healthy shoot, nice and green and colorful, then you know that it has a successful dormancy and it's ready to go. Weather is influential on every growth cycle with a vine, particularly in bud break. Just with a cold winter, it might slow down the progress of bud break. But once that warm weather starts, kicking in, it really starts when the vine's growing. If that warm weather happens too fast, let's say you get an early April bud break, frost damage and frost events are super important and super detrimental to any vineyard in the world. Here in Cape May County, we have a really great growing region. One, it's always windy. The wind pushes the cold air around so it doesn't let the cold air set in your vineyard. It moves the cold air so that it won't damage your little buds. And then also the Delaware Bay and Atlantic Ocean come together and they mitigate all of our weather, no matter what time of year. So, it won't get as hot as some places up the road in the middle of New Jersey, but it also won't get as cold during the winter time, during this important time where frost events could occur in your vineyard. That Delaware Bay and those bodies of water coming together warm up this area so we don't really have to worry about too much frost damage. Bud break does vary between grape varieties. If you have a vine, let's say like Cabernet Franc or Cabernet Sauvignon, those will typically break later because they are a later ripening fruit. But if you have a Pinot Noir, that will be an earlier bud break. That would be earlier ripening red, and we'll pick that first. So it kind of, on a line, it'll kind of just go through the same trajectory after it breaks. So we'll have our Pinot Noir that will break April 15th. We'll have our Cabernet Sauvignon that will break April 25th. It might be 10 days where you could harvest that separation, but we'll let our Cabernet hang on the vine for a little bit longer. But it just goes to show that two different varietals will start growing at two different times. We monitor everything in our vineyard just by walking through it. That's the most important thing that I was taught, is that you pull up to the vineyard in your pickup truck, you get out of your pickup truck and you walk through and you look at as many rows, as many vines as possible to really check on everything and see how everything's growing. During the growing season later, we will do a plant tissue analysis to really get the chemical structure and overall vine health. But now it's really just all visual and making sure our vines are growing as healthy as possible.